Hey fans, did you know that Dash is the only digital auction platform built specifically for professional sports teams and their fan bases? It is also your place to score your favorite hockey team's most authentic memorabilia and game day experiences. Dash powers the auctions for your favorite AHL, ECHL, SPHL, NAHL, and USHL hockey clubs, plus many more across sports. Get in on the bidding now by texting DASH to 66866 or visit thesinbin.net and click on the word auctions in the upper right corner to find out the latest hockey auctions. Dash, making sports bidding so much easier in the digital age. This episode of the In the Corners podcast is sponsored by Sporfy, the sports video platform that allows you to instantly capture, replay, and share your favorite game highlights, all without having to film. For more information, visit sporfy.com or download the mobile app from the Google Play Store or the App Store.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Cynthiana, Kentucky.
Oh, it's a zombie. This is the In the Corners podcast for Monday, October 19th, 2020. Welcome to the good ship In the Corners for episode number 90. We are 10 away from that century mark. I've been here probably, since the mid-60s, late 60s numbers of episodes. So it's been a good haul. My name is Cece Hawkley.
And I'm Sean O'Brien.
In all his undead glory. Oh, God. Thanks for tuning in with us, and welcome to another episode of the show. Again, it's the October monthly edition of the In the Corners podcast, and Sean has spared no expense showcasing his Halloween-y. He's got the look down and everything. Gosh, that's disturbing, but you pulled off so well. Kudos to your wife, and kudos to she's the one who mainly put that on, right?
Yeah, she did almost all of it.
Let me see that. Let me see the gash in the side of your. See, yeah, that's impressive. Like that looks really good.
Yeah, if you normally listen to the podcast through Apple or Google or Stitcher or anything like that, would recommend the YouTube version for this one.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We're making a lot of visual references on that, but definitely go to the Sinbin's YouTube channel, hit subscribe, and check out Sean in all his zombified glory. So, all right. Well, without any further Halloween shenanigans, which, Sean is embodying so well, we're going to go ahead and hit the ground running like we normally do. Last episode, we had Joseph Wills, the Sinbin's Charlotte Checkers correspondent. It was great to have him on. Great to talk a little bit of the new Charlotte affiliation with him and everything. And so this week, we decided to bring on another Sinbinner, another new face to the AHL team, newer face. She's been around for a couple months now here in the off season, but our guest today currently resides in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and covers the AHL's Laval Rocket for the Sinbin. And growing up, she was watching the AHL's Houston Aeros, a little bit of a few years back and a throwback there in Houston, Texas. And she also jumped into the sport herself as a goaltender. So she knows a thing or two about net minding, both practically and otherwise. So she's followed the Montreal Canadiens for a number of years, and she's put her knowledge of Les Habitants to good use by, as previously mentioned, covering the Laval Rocket for Team Sinbin. So joining us today is none other than Deanna McFeron. Welcome, Deanna.
Howdy.
There's that Houston we were talking about. And you've also got that nice Deutschland flag behind you. You did spend some time in Germany as well, correct?
I did. And I speak German. So, it's kind of a lot of me in this area right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many years did you spend in Germany, Dee?
I was there for a year and a half, but we were supposed to be there for 3. It's just that we got reassigned sooner than we expected.
Gotcha. Yeah. The fun life of a military family. I've lived in a number of Air Force towns myself, Colorado Springs, Mountain Home, Idaho. So I know how often those military folks can travel and everything. So it sounds like you got the short end of the stick on having to bump around and everything. And that's ultimately why you ended up in Colorado Springs as well, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. So, well, once again, Deanna covers Laval for the Sin Bin, and we're going to jump right into it. Sean, if you would go ahead and take the wheel. Let's go ahead. Actually, Sean, I'll take this one. Sorry. I'm seizing back control of the topic that I was gonna lob up there. So, okay, Deanna, a couple months ago, you wrote an article for the Sin Bin on the Laval Rocket and the city of Laval, Quebec, hosting the AHL All-Star game that was supposed to happen in 2021. And unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic and everything, that was postponed to 2022. But at least Laval is still going to be the host city for that. AHL didn't throw any curveballs themselves. They kept it pretty straightforward and everything. What did and what does the All-Star game as a whole, just kind of in the same, zeitgeist as it were, with Laval and everything, what does the All-Star game mean to Laval as a market?
Well, I mean, Laval only entered the AHL 3 seasons ago. It's
Right.
a very, very young team. So being chosen to host the All-Star Classic by the league, it helps them to solidify their presence within the league and to gain their footing because it's a baby team.
Mm-hmm.
If they were a human, they could barely walk, right? So they've got all of these growing pains and stuff that teams usually have to go through. But to be recognized by the league and saying, hey, we want to highlight your city, we want to highlight your team, and we want to host the All-Star Classic in the province of Quebec, which has never hosted an AHL All-Star Classic. It's massive. It's major.
Yeah, and I think, having the news of an ECHL team as well in Quebec, and to be the second, at least Canadian affiliate, NHL, AHL, ECHL, to have all of their 2 minor league and 1 NHL teams in the same province. I think news of that as well. I mean, it seems like things are going really good on the minor league hockey front in regards to the province of Quebec.
Yeah, that was actually one of my first articles that I wrote was about Trois-Rivières and what it would mean if they could affiliate with a team that's so close. I mean, Laval is literally a suburb of Montreal, but if you go to TR, that's just like 90 minutes up the road. That's an hour and a half. It's a bus ride. So to have everything so close, instead of having to send them, all the way over to like British Columbia or into the United States, and you've got like visa issues and stuff because now they're working for a team in the United States, but they only have a visa to work in Canada. It really changes the game and helps to build the sport back up in Quebec. So,
see, and like sorry, Sean, I'll just chime in one more time. I could tell Sean was about to say something, but just to kind of compare in Colorado for Colorado to shift from having an AHL team, the Avalanche rather, to have an AHL affiliate in the Lake Erie Monsters and the San Antonio Rampage, and to go and having one just literally, an hour up the road on I-25 there from Denver to Loveland. And then to have their ECHL affiliate in Salt Lake City, you hop on a plane at Denver International and you go over to Salt Lake City. I mean, that's huge. But to have everyone in literally like, hour and a half, 2 hour distance, I mean, that's a huge thing. And to really kind of build on that and to, just bolster the hockey community, one of the keystone, if not the keystone franchise of the NHL and the Montreal Canadiens, That's all I've got to say about that. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say a couple of things. One, Colorado has definitely said multiple times how much they've enjoyed having all of their prospects so close by. It really just continues to make it look like Carolina is out of their minds, but that's something we've already talked about, and there's no need to keep beating that horse. But the other thing too, I think a lot of people don't realize is they just think, oh, it's a hockey team in Canada. Of course, everyone loves them. It's, but like there is still that grassroots effort that needs to happen. And the AHL giving them the All-Star game definitely speaks to that, like Deanna mentioned. And I think there would be a lot of people who'd be surprised to kind of not think of, oh yeah, the Laval still need to do, work in the community and get, showcase that fan base and their team to the people that live there, even though it is, like she said, a suburb of Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is too, like my parents' generation of Quebecers might be divided in their loyalty, because if you were a Nordiques fan, you were not a Montreal fan. But, if you can branch out in the community, like the AHL gave Quebec, their first All-Star game because of Montreal's AHL affiliate, then, maybe my generation or, the younger generations will associate with that the league is helping to grow the game within the province instead of just the Quebec City and Montreal rivalry.
Yeah. And I loved how you, like you just mentioned about the generational ties. I love how you tied that into your article, and how you basically said that, this is a key turning point for a lot of kids coming up, in, juniors hockey and things like that. And to really have, and that's a really good point. I mean, that both of you made, is the fact that, the province doesn't have a Nordiques Canadiens rivalry like they did back in our parents' age. I mean, the Avalanche became the Avalanche back in 1995. And, either we were all kids or barely cognizant or not even born yet in 1995. There you go. when the Nordiques made the move to Denver and became the Avalanche. And so, yeah, it's so crucial to have, even though, yeah, it's Canada, hockey is Canada's sport, but to have a rehabilitation of sorts. And to really kind of latch onto an image of, okay, so the Laval Rocket, obviously, even when you're taking your name from Rocket Richard and, establishing your identity deeply into the province of Quebec. I mean, that both of you guys just made great points in the sense that it's going to be great. And when 2022 rolls around and Laval gets a chance to showcase their market and to really differentiate themselves and to, like you said, Deanna, have Quebec host their first All-Star game just as a province. I mean, how many All-Star games did St. John's, Newfoundland host? Like 2 or 3 at this point?
Yeah. More than Quebec.
Right. There you go. It's just, that, I mean, even if North Atlantic Canada can get a few All-Star games, it just makes sense that Quebec would get one eventually.
Right.
So.
And it doesn't make any sense too. I mean, you think of Quebec, you think of hockey.
Right.
It's been so deeply ingrained in the province for so long. And just because of the fact that, the AHL hasn't really had that strong of a presence in the province of Quebec. But now with Laval coming up, and that's so close to Montreal, that the AHL can also grow their presence within the province. And the AHL is something that's aspirational for kids as well. Maybe you're not like an NHL caliber player, maybe you're a little bit better than the ECHL, but you can sign with the ECHL and make your way to the AHL, and you can sign with a hometown team, and
Right.
That's massively important in growing the game, because especially with immigrants, I know a lot of Canadian immigrants, and they play soccer because it's accessible to them, because it's also played in the European countries or the South Asian countries where they come from. It's played all over Africa, so it's accessible. But having hockey be that much more accessible helps to just grow the game within the province. And you know what? It's nice that Montreal is not the only hockey team in the province of Quebec.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's to have more than one professional hockey team in Quebec is totally important. And speaking of which, there's been a lot of roster moves in the I was going to say in the Quebec organization, but in the Montreal Canadiens organization. And Sean, you've made a lot of astute observations, and you're gonna, just lay it on her.
All right. So Phil Varone, Riley Barber, and Matthew Pekka were traded, which I know at this point is very old news. Carl Alsner was bought out, and rumors are that the Bruins are interested in bringing him into the organization. Back in February, Mark Dumont, formerly of The Athletic, who I just want to say, great reporter on the Habs and the Rocket, but he had a take on Twitter about New York Bagels that almost caused me to unfollow him. So I can't. Anyway, he reported that guys were unhappy with playing time, saying that the veterans weren't happy that guys like Kotkaniemi and Poling were taking minutes from them. Joel Bouchard, the head coach, was quoted as saying, in the AHL, you need good veterans, not a lot of veterans. You need the good ones who understand that you need to have a passion for the game, who understand what the process involves. And it's better to have a few that get it than more who are independent contractors. Now, the Rocket clearly had plans to develop their young talent, of which there is a lot in their system. And they seem to do so with a kind of baptism by fire method of, well, you're going to play top 6 minutes in the AHL, whether or not you are ready for them, and you're going to learn. And that seems to be butting heads with some of the veterans they've had over the past 2 years. Schlemko, Weiss, Grenier, Keith Kincaid. And having them be unhappier at the bottom of the lineup, giving minutes to the younger guys as well, also seems to answer some of the questions of why the Laval have struggled to score despite outchancing, is because you're giving the puck to players who maybe aren't ready for those roles. So my question for you here in this long-winded explanation is, what are your take on the Rockets' roster choices, their development plan, and how do you kind of see them moving forward with it?
Well, I will say this. When they fired Sly and they brought in Bouchard, there was kind of a reset. They're now creating a new identity that is kind of parallel to, but separate from the parent club. So I will say they are still, like I said, they are still going through a little bit of growing pains. They're still, this is only Bouchard's second season as a professional coach. And this wasn't even a full season. So really he's got like 1 3/5 of professional seasons under his belt. So I do agree with you. Sometimes maybe players are put in positions or situations that they're probably not necessarily ready for. But when it works, it works. So you see players like Cale Fleury, who made the Montreal Canadiens roster out of training camp. He more than earned his spot out of camp with the Habs, and a large part of that was due to Bouchard's development of him and using him and putting him in those uncomfortable situations. It's just that when it started to become evident that he needed a little more time to marinate, that they sent him back down. Or Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who went the opposite direction. He had a couple of injuries. He started the year off an injury out of camp, and then he took that hotly contested hit from Zadorov and was out for a while. There was like concussions and everything. And then he came back and his game suffered. Well, they sent him down to Laval, and he played 13 games, and he got 13 points before somebody murdered his spleen. So,
ow.
Yeah. But then he took everything that Bouchard was teaching him. He went into the pause and came back bigger and better and stronger. And I don't think that happens if it's Julien and Ducharme kind of in charge of all of that. So, yeah, it's sometimes maybe they're just kids but also you got to pull your big boy britches on at some point in time, and you've got to learn how to play hockey. And what Bouchard excels with is because he was a coach in the Q for so long, that he knows how to work with the kids and he knows how to bridge that gap. So I don't think he gives them more than he thinks they can handle. And if you look at a player Jake Evans, for example, he just signed a contract extension with a baffling structure, but he's been a staple of, the Laval forward lines. He's top 6 in Laval when he's there, and he's one of Bouchard's guys. There's a video that the Rocket posted on Twitter, and it's there was kind of a scoring drought for Evans, and he scored an empty net goal, and Bouchard was the most excited person on that bench for him. So I really don't think he gives them more than they can handle. And I think he really pushes for the best. Now, with the veterans, it's a whole different story because Bouchard doesn't control what veterans he gets. He's kind of told by Marc Bergevin that these veterans are coming down, or we've signed these veterans for you guys. So with the kind of attitude reset that the Canadiens were like pushing toward when Shea Weber became the captain, that didn't necessarily translate to the AHL. But you see now that the organizations kind of mirror each other. So it's kind of pushing towards that direction, but you got to get the bad apples out somehow. So if somebody's going to say, no, I don't like the way they used me, and I don't like my ice time or whatever, if they're going to say something negative about it, at some point you've got to find a way to get them out. Like Hudon, who is now playing in Switzerland, and he was an AHL All-Star.
Yep, he very much butted heads with Bouchard, and that was it.
Yeah, so he didn't accept his qualifying offer, and now he's playing in Lausanne. And he scored a goal and an assist in his first game the other day, but he's not in even the AHL anymore. Mm-hmm. So, and that's kind of that. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to come back if the season resumes and kind of try and negotiate contract talks. But from I asked them for a trade and they didn't want to trade me kind of thing that was floating around everywhere, I think that's a super burnt bridge. I don't think you can't like duct tape that one back together. So.
And that definitely seems to be Bouchard's approach with some of the veterans of this is my way or the highway. And he seems to be, I don't want to say looking for bridges to burn, but he doesn't seem to mind doing it if that's what, it takes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would also say too, the Canadiens kind of revamping their development system and how they work things is a little bit out of necessity now they have a prospect pipeline that has definitely made big steps forward. But like, if you think about before Laval was a team and they're like the prospects that were, second, third round picks by the Habs that became, even top 9 forwards or top 6 defensemen in the NHL, it's not a big list.
Yeah.
And I think that
off the top of my head, I've got like Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah.
Arturi Lehkonen was drafted in the second round. He's been a mainstay on the roster as well. He was effective in the return to play. But yeah, those are the only 2 off the top of my head that I can think of that have made a massive impact for the team.
Yeah, and that's been kind of the criticism on their development prior to Laval being more of a direct involvement. Whereas like you look at the other really top teams in the NHL, Syracuse develops guys left and right. Worcester developed guys left and right. If Wilkes-Barre Scranton ever got a prospect, they would probably develop the hell out of them. But
right?
You need that pipeline to work for. I mean, if you have a first round pick and you send them to the NHL, that's expected. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Those first round guys are going to be in the NHL in 2 years, but it's your second, third, fourth round guys that that's where your development pipeline makes the difference, because those are guys that need work. They need more than just a little seasoning and getting up to speed and maybe adding a small detail. They need big things. I mean, the fact that they have Jake Evans almost ready for the NHL, and the fact that he was a 7th round pick, I think, that's a testament to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think,
go ahead, Dee. Go ahead.
I think it has a lot to do with the team being in the same province and being able to share a cultural identity as well as just a playing identity. Because, they were St. John's, they were in Hamilton. The Habs used to develop their players in Houston at one point in time. It has make it make sense. And it makes sense in Laval. And that really helps.
We'll definitely be talking more about the roster and everything a little bit later in the show. And it just, D, like you said, it just looped back around, not to on ice culture, but also just a hockey organizational culture there in the province of Quebec. So that totality and just completing the circle just happened quite nicely right there. So makes my heart happy for sure. But anyway, we're gonna shift a little bit. We're gonna talk about a big trade that happened back in September. Again, this is a monthly podcast during the off season. So I think we're actually going to go every 2 weeks now, since, news is picking up and everything like that. But I'm getting it confused with the more team centric podcasts of the Sin Bin, like Syracuse Speaks and, Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast. I don't know who hosts that one, but
mystery.
Yeah. It's I don't understand who does that, but
it's not anyway time for a second podcast.
Some guy who has, way too much hockey on the brain, I think, but I digress. So moving on, let's talk about a trade that happened back on September 28th. And it happened between the Vegas Golden Knights organization and the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks got centerman Brandon Pirri from Vegas, and then Dylan Sikura ended up bumping over to Vegas from the Blackhawks, and he's going to probably be playing in Henderson next year. So, Sean, my good man, what are your thoughts on this trade? We're going back a little bit, but hey, I think it's an important trade that we need to cover.
No, absolutely. And I wasn't surprised to hear that Sikura got traded. I was more surprised to see what he was traded for. And I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Both guys are graded as first-line forwards in the point shares model found on my Tableau page. Sikura was 90th percentile, Pirri in the 96th percentile. Very comparable in terms of production, especially if you look at where they fall on the chart, they're practically on top of each other. Pirri was a little better offensively, Sikura a little bit better defensively in terms of point share scoring. But Sikura played more games, which skews it. What I meant when I said that it was not shocking to see Sikura on his way out, he's been an offensive machine in the A, but hasn't shown that ability to translate that offense to the NHL level. And rumors leaked out of Chicago that he had gotten in Jeremy Colleton's doghouse, and here we are. Sikura checks a lot of boxes offensively for me, though. He's got top-end talent. He's an excellent skater. But I think the problems that he has were similar to the ones where he had coming out of college. And that's when he has the puck on a stick, probably the best player on the ice. When he doesn't, he's just kind of there. He's not overly defensively or physically engaged, and occasionally gets a little lazy on regroups in the neutral zone. That's gotten a lot better since college, but it has not gotten away. And that also can, or in many cases does, drive coaches crazy. And a lot of top-end talent players in the NHL can do exactly what he does, but they get away with it because of the offense they create in the wake of that void of defense and physical play. Guys like Malkin, Kane, Ovechkin, Kovalev, Gaudreau, Matthews. I could go on here. Leon Draisaitl. Leon Draisaitl by a million. But at the AHL level, it's you can still get away with that and score a bunch of points. But if you want to move up to the NHL level, you're offensively not talented enough to just get by on the offense you produce alone. You're going to need to have more of that discipline and that consistency. And I think that's something that put Sikura in Jeremy Colleton's doghouse and why they eventually just decided, you know what, we're done with this guy. Let's see if someone else wants him. And they got Brandon Pirri for him. Now, I think Brandon Pirri is not going to be much more for Chicago than a rotational black ace. Yes, he's still got the game in the AHL, but you don't see NHL teams moving prospects that still have value for what is a black ace in the NHL. Can Pirri help the Ice Hogs? Absolutely. Character and leadership and showing prospects to be a pro has value, especially for one who can still produce at a top level in the AHL. But I feel like you could have attained that type of player for much, much cheaper. To give away an asset that has as much value as I think Sikura did is kind of questionable for me, but it also falls very much in what Chicago has done in recent years of like when a prospect they were maybe used to be high on isn't turning out, they very quickly abandon them. Henry Yokiharu for Nylander a couple of years ago was another example of just, well, we didn't like him in the little bit of NHL time he played, so cast him off to some other city.
Yeah, and I've noticed that the Blackhawks organization, I mean, they did a number of trades, and obviously with a more home-centric mindset, it kind of reminded me like Colorado followed suit, and obviously one of their the Blackhawks trades involved the Avalanche. But on September 28th, you had Brandon Pirri coming to the organization. On October 4th, you had Brad Morrison from the Los Angeles Kings organization come in, another centerman. And then on the 10th, you had that deal with Brandon Saad and Dennis Gilbert going from Chicago to Colorado. And, the Blackhawks picking up Nikita Zadorov and Anton Lindholm from the Avalanche. And so, it's like they seem to be doing these deals that, especially with kind of the focus on the Zadorov and Lindholm acquisition, the Blackhawks, they kind of got, they trade away, a more rough and tumble player in Saad and Dennis Gilbert, definitely, which, the Eagles definitely needed a little more grit, especially on their blue line. But it just seems kind of like a 1-for-1 deal, and you're just kind of trading apples for apples at this point. I mean, and from what it sounds like, Sean, that's kind of the assessment you had with the Pirri and Sikura trade.
It's the trading what could be a future apple for what is a definite grapple, I guess.
Grapple.
Never heard of a grapple?
It's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah. It's
no.
Like for me, you're trading something that could blossom in the future to something you already know what it is. Like, I realize the fruit metaphor, not the greatest in that moment, but like,
sure.
But then again, Chicago has a long history of just casting off draft picks. The only first round pick that Stan Bowman has ever made, they haven't traded, is Kirby Dach. That's it. That's the entire list.
Wow. That's it. That's not good. That's not good, Bob.
Yeah.
Less than ideal.
Yeah, less than ideal. Well said.
Like it very much follows kind of that mindset. Also, too, especially like Jonathan Taves came out the other day and was like, nobody told me we were going to be in a rebuild after they didn't re-sign Corey Crawford, and their goaltending situation is going to be Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia for this season.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Chicago's going to be bad.
Yeah. I hadn't realized that Subban and Delia. I mean, Delia has been bouncing around between the AHL and the ECHL for a number of seasons, and he's just kind of, teetered between those two. And so to hear his name as the backup in Chicago is just like, it left me flabbergasted just now. I'm like, well, wait a second. Malcolm Subban. It's like, I remember Malcolm Subban being, a couple 3 years ago when Vegas, all of their goaltenders got injured, and they used, guys like Maxime Lagacé and, all these other folks that, just turnstile through there when
we're pulling guys off the street. Hey, can you play goal? Cool.
I think Deanna would go play goaltender with them, if she was ready.
In, coach.
Put me in, coach.
I got my own water bottle. I'll bring my equipment. It's fine.
Yep. D's going to make NHL history if that happens again, but eat your heart out. Eat your heart out, Chicago. Anyway, so that, again, big trade that happened back in September. Now we're going to focus a little more on some free agent signings in the North Division of the AHL. as a whole. So we're going to get started with the Belleville Senators. We're talking about another Canadian-based AHL team there. And first and foremost, you had Logan Shaw, who, gosh, I forget the date that he was actually signed here. October 9th. So another, a more recent signing, rather. The forward signing a 2-year, 2-way NHL contract with Ottawa. So Mr. Shaw, 18-19, he put up 46 points in 63 games. Very solid. 7.38 point share, landing in the 78th percentile. That's good for a second line forward grade on the per game basis. Thank you, Sean O'Brien, for your wonderful analytic work there. Last season, he spent almost all of it with the Winnipeg Jets. He played in just 16 AHL games, put home 10 points in those 16 games. So that's a solid, three-quarter point average per game, if my math is right, maybe a little less. But definitely could see him bouncing back and forth between Belleville and Ottawa, or just staying in Belleville for the entire season. Seemed to be, solid pickup for what seems to be, gosh, not a whole lot going on with Belleville currently.
Yeah, and I was kind of hesitant to think more about him just because I'm like, I don't think he's going to be there, but he could be. So I at least thought he was worth mentioning. If he sticks in Belleville, he's going to be a top 6 forward for them. He's going to put points up. He is NHL capable, but like very close to the line. Like he's probably at best a good black ace for a team, or an injury fill, or like a, just shake the lineup kind of guy. But like at the AHL level, no, he can still get it done. He's still savvy enough to be able to move the needle heavily at the AHL level.
Right. Another October 9th signing, Matthew Pekka, also signed with Ottawa, another NHL contract, only 1 year on a 2-way deal. But Sean, shine a little light on Pekka.
13 points in 34 games in 1920, which was definitely disappointing after a 46-point campaign the previous year, hampered by injuries. He's a fast and fluid skater who has an offensive toolbox that I think is big enough for the NHL. But as I'm sure you've heard me say before, and I will say again in the future, his consistency last season was, bad. And if you want to say that that's due to injuries and he wasn't healthy and that was why he couldn't, keep putting his A game out there night after night, I have time for that explanation. But he's someone that needs to live up to that capability. And he hasn't in the past year, and he got ran out of Laval for it. But he has the potential to be an NHL caliber player in Belleville, which bodes very well for them. I know that he, had a very maligned year in Laval. Dee, do you have any thoughts on him?
Yeah, the thing about Pekka is that he requires line mates that are gonna be really good at hockey. He requires a high maintenance line, basically. Because if it's him who needs to be producing, he kind of grips that stick a little too tight. He makes really dumb passing plays. So he needs a line that's tailored to kind of, I don't know, everybody who needs each other to score goes on a line, and maybe they can score, because he's not really a checker. He's a puck mover. So he needs people who can finish chances that he brings into the zone. So
also not much of a win the puck battle off the boards kind of guy.
No. I will say about Matthew Pekka, I give my own nicknames to the players because it's whatever pops into my head. Pekka, I just called whatever classical composer popped into my head. So I shouted Tchaikovsky a lot at my television whenever he did something stupid. And it's because he plays the piano.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I've got a dumb monkey brain.
No, I will say we need to take back nicknames from the players because hockey players make the worst nicknames because everyone's name just becomes their shortened name with an I or a Y at the end or an ER. We need to get back to the Mr. Hockey and, Rocket Richard kind of nicknames because the players are not going to come up with those on themselves. So, yes, give them good nicknames.
Oh, mine's MC. That's not creative.
I don't know. I like Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, Tchaikovsky. I called him Dostoevsky a couple of times. Like I had a good time with that. And just my interjection there about Pekka.
No, well, speaking about nicknames, the next guy on this list, Rub-a-Dub-Dub Artem Zub. How about that as a nickname? If he
it's a little long.
Hey, you're pulling out classical composer references. So Rub-a-Dub-Dub Artem Zub. I mean, maybe if he scores a goal, you can throw that out.
Yeah, you could tap, call for a pass and say "bok bok bok." You can't say "rub-a-dub-dub."
Then people think you're a chicken. Bok bok. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
If you can shout "wheel wheel wheel," in the zone, you can shout "bok." It's fine.
It is okay. All right, I'll give you that one for sure. But Artem Zub, we're going back to May for this one. I mean, you bounce back May 1st to October 9th. That was the stretch that Ottawa or Belleville, for even that matter, announced a signing of a guy. So Artem Zub, 1-year entry-level contract. That's kind of a rarity. You normally see an entry-level deal 2 or 3 years at the most. But yeah, 1-year entry-level contract. If he comes to Belleville, the biggest question will be how quickly he adapts to the pace and if he can still process the game fast enough to keep up. I mean, just coming into the NHL or AHL level, that's going to be a huge adjustment. But, he took big steps forward last season. He checks a lot of the boxes with his vision, his skating, and especially his shot and size too. I think he struggles initially in Belleville, but he'll eventually find his game. It's just not a whole lot to say about somebody coming directly into the game like that. But
I think too, the 1-year deal might be related to the fact that expansion draft, they need guys they can expose. I don't know that that's the case, but I think a lot of these 1 and 2 year deals that you're seeing are, hey, these are guys we can expose so that we don't get Floridaed like they did what happened in Vegas's expansion draft, where it's here are all of the players that we should have protected but couldn't. Thanks, Vegas.
Yeah. Yep. Expansion the past few years has definitely changed the game in regards to contract signings and things like that. So that's a very good point. Next signing, last but not least, it actually happened just a couple days ago on October 16th. And Rudolfs Balcers, am I pronouncing that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's Latvian. So my, Latvian pronunciation guide, I must have left in my other set of pants. So, but yeah, Sean, like I said, he got signed a few days ago, 1-year deal. What can you tell us about Rudolfs?
36 points in 33 games last season, 4.59 point shares, good for the 99th percentile on a per game basis, which, shocker, lands him in the elite AHL player category.
Imagine
he
that.
Has tremendous hockey IQ and processes the game better and faster than his peers. His skating leaves me wanting more, especially for a player his size, as I don't want to call him an undersized player because I feel like that's a stupid tag, but he's not a big dude. He's my sized. And I would want to see a player who thinks the game that well and is able to process at that speed, do some more work on his edge work and getting his stride to be a little bit more efficient. When his motor is going, he's a good defensive player, good forechecker, but his motivation kind of waxes and wanes and could use some focus from him. Because if he's able to bring that A+ game every night, he's a damn good player.
And last but not least, Ottawa actually signing a goaltender as well in the past. Was it today or yesterday that they signed Joey Decord?
I think it was yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm having a brain fart, but yeah, yesterday, October 17th, signing Joey Decord. And, he played again. We were talking about Colin Delia, spending time between the ECHL and AHL. It's been the same for Decord here too.
A little bit, yeah. 24 games played last year, 915 save percentage, stopping 0.28 goals above average per 60 minutes, according to the statistics that I produce on my Tableau page. He was definitely the Baby Sens' best goalie last year, and I think he could establish himself as a solid AHL starter. He has a good but not a great skill set, which is more than enough at the AHL level. He moves well, reads the play well, but doesn't seem to have an established NHL toolbox. His rebound control and lateral movement are good, but they're not. I think they would give him problems at the NHL level. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see if he can take another step forward this year and maybe be the kind of 35-game starter that Belleville needs, because they sure did not have that guy last year.
Yeah, and I think, we're talking about developing prospects. I mean, Decor's the 7th round pick as well earlier, but even 10 years ago to get a guy from a well, I mean, they didn't even have a Division I program, but Arizona State product. It's like, you see that on his Hockey DB profile, and you're just like, wow. Okay, well, it's like, I mean, you can attest to this, Sean, being an alumni, but like Penn State, and like a Peyton Jones coming to the Colorado Eagles organization, that wouldn't have happened probably a good, 5, maybe 10 years ago. And again, it's kind of a testament, a little sidebar there, but just a testament to these, growing hockey markets that are, Division I programs now, and how they're cultivating, goaltenders and other positions as well.
Mario Lemieux's kid played at ASU.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yep. He actually, I think, just retired from hockey to pursue golf professionally, but he was there. They also have a kid named Johnny Walker who's going to be a stud.
Right on. We'll keep an eye out for him. All right, last but not least. Actually, that was last. Sorry, I'm getting all out of sorts here because I said the last one was Decord and the last one before that, so... Let's move on to the Binghamton Devils. What's that, D?
They're all the last but not least.
Fair. So moving on to Binghamton, again, another kind of quiet organization when it comes to signings and everything. I mean, they've only really announced since July 13th, 6 signings that I can see here, at least on the AHL transactions page on the Sinbin. But let's go ahead and start with Brett Seney.
44 points in 61 games, 3.83 point shares, landing him in the 79th percentile and the second line forward category on a per game basis. Good guy on the PK, a smooth skater, but definitely lacks that NHL separation gear. He went on an absolute heater last season from January through Valentine's Day after a very bad December. So he is someone when I watch, I can definitely see that consistency too being something that holds him back. But he's very crafty in the offensive zone, does a good job reading the play and making creative offense. He definitely needs to stay out of the box though. 66 PIMs last year, a lot of which were the slashing and tripping variety. And in seeing quite a few of them, there were definitely some laziness in those penalties that need to be cleaned up because you can't score from the penalty box, bro.
Nope, sure can't. But I mentioned Binghamton, not doing, or New Jersey even, not doing a whole lot of AHL level signings, but they signed 3 guys, or at least announced it on September 30th. Saney was one of them. Another guy was Ben Street. That centerman, he had 42 points in 49 games last year, 3.86 point share. That lands him in the 88th percentile. That's a solid, first liner grade on a per game basis. Well-traveled veteran. I mean, you look at his Hockey DB page and, Avalanche AHL prospect, Lake Erie, San Antonio, like I mentioned earlier, Grand Rapids, San Diego Gulls, and, most recently with Binghamton, and had a cup of coffee with the Devils last year too in 3 games. And he had 1 assist up there. So he's definitely got the sandpaper to his offensive game that you want in a grizzled veteran. He drives to the net, isn't afraid to get into battles in the dirty areas. You like to see that in a guy. Defensively, he has good instincts. He works hard to follow through on them, but, his puck skills aren't top end. But I think pairing him on a line with Saney, I think that would really help to offset that. They complement each other well. So, to lock up those guys again and to kind of announce them in one package deal, well, not a package deal rather, but just a package announcement. And there was also a third guy that they mentioned, which was defenseman Josh Jacobs. And I will defer to Sean on that.
15 points in 54 games played, 3.67 point shares, good for the 77th percentile, and barely squeezing into that top pairing defenseman category on a per game basis. Good mobile defenseman. He has good agility, but isn't fast, I would say, but still fast enough to get the job done at the AHL level. I did enjoy watching him jump up and join the rush a bunch, which is not something you think of as guys with his production level doing at the AHL, but his offense is slowly developing and he's finding more paths to put pucks in the net. I don't know if it ever reaches a level where he's tipping the scales from a scoring standpoint, but he definitely has good instincts. I just would like to see him follow through on them a little bit more. He also got kind of unlucky last year in some of the chances he did generate, but I think a good signing for them. I definitely am hoping to see more, not just from him offensively, but more, I guess, some good luck and pucks going in when he joins the rush. But he definitely is a capable defenseman at the AHL level.
Speaking of capable defensemen, you got Mr. Riley Walsh, and coming in from an Ivy League school, no less, and getting signed up by New Jersey way back on, I say way back, but it feels like forever ago, on August 10th, 3-year entry-level deal. Tell us about the Mr. Ivy League himself, Sean.
Well, I'm not sure if he's going to be in Binghamton next season, as I still think he has a year of eligibility at Harvard. Regardless, he has great vision and a powerful shot. He'd be an immediate upgrade to a power play that ranked 16th last season with a 17% conversion rate. His skating concerns me, specifically his lack of burst, but I think he has the hockey sense and the NHL shot velocity to still be a very good contributor at the AHL level. If he does make it to Binghamton and decides to leave the ivory tower at Harvard, I think he will be very successful there.
Yeah, and having a smart defenseman. I mean, I think just anybody that goes to an Ivy League school, I don't want to pigeonhole them and say, well, they're super intelligent guys. Well, they are. I mean, if they're gonna go to an Ivy League school like Harvard or Yale, they're gonna have intelligence about them, and it's just whether or not that intelligence translates to hockey IQ, and whether that switches over to the rink as well on a professional level. But not in our outline here, but I did want to mention October 11th, Jersey signed goaltender Scott Wedgwood to a 1-year, 2-way NHL contract. So, he comes back to the New Jersey, Binghamton for the Albany Devils too at one point in time in 16-17, after bouncing around between Ontario in 17-18, Rochester in 18-19, and Syracuse in 19-20. So you can add that to Binghamton's list of transactions as well.
And I think of him as being more of a backup at the AHL level. That's why I thought about putting him on the outline to talk about more, but I don't think he has the impact on Binghamton as a goaltender that maybe others would be hoping for. I think of him as basically being a 20-game backup kind of guy.
Gotcha. Yeah, and in Syracuse last year, I believe it was Spencer Martin and him that split duties there with the crunch. So, I mean, take that for what you will. I mean, Spencer Martin kind of underwhelmed here for the Colorado Eagles in his time as an Avs prospect. And so the Avs let him walk and signed with the Tampa Bay organization last offseason. So anyway, neither here nor there, but 2 teams down, 2 to go in the North Division that we're covering today anyway. Another one that we wanted to highlight was the Rochester Americans and Andrew Ogilvie. Sean, again, I'll defer to you on that one.
Ogilvie? 29 points in 55 games, 2.65 point shares, landing him in the 66th percentile and a second-line tag on a per-game basis. Great college career at Notre Dame, but unlike his Fighting Irish teammate Jake Evans, his college production really hasn't translated as well to the pro game. He's a hard worker, has flashes of good puck skills, but leaves me wanting looking at his decision-making, his skating, and his creativity. He's good at finding soft spots in coverage and has a pretty good shot, but he's not someone I'd entrust to drive play on his own line. And I wouldn't really ask too much more of him through the neutral zone either. He's probably better suited to dump and chase and do puck retrieval than he is trying to make entries by himself, especially 5-on-5. He often plays the bumper spot on the power play for them, which I think is probably the best use of his skill set of finding soft spots and getting quick shots off. He's pretty good at tipping pucks as well.
Gotcha. Another player that the Buffalo Sabres organization signed was Tage Thompson. And, you talked about wanting to include Scott Wedgwood or debating on whether to include Scott Wedgwood in our discussion of offseason signings and kind of like the main points and everything like that. Tage Thompson was kind of one of those guys. I personally update the AHL transactions page for the Sinbin. So it's like, he's kind of right on the cusp. He had a full season with the Sabres back in, 18-19, 65 games for 12 points. And then, spending some time with Rochester in that same season, but again, playing, he's just kind of one of those players that you could include him on the AHL level list of transactions, or you don't, or you can not include him on that list, and it would be understandable as well, because, he may spend just maybe a handful of games with Rochester next season, like a dozen or so, but he doesn't just have NHL potential. He has a potential to be a good NHLer, which is, saying something for the Sabres organization and their prospects going on right now. But 6'6" with a lot of power and physicality, deadly and deceptive on that wrist shot too. He lacks that top end skating speed, which is, paramount in a lot of instances in today's game. But I think he's more than capable of making up for it in his playmaking, also with his vision and his puck skills, which, that's a fair trade-off as much as it can be. Definitely hope he gets healthy enough and to be able to take a step forward rather, and stay in the game and stay with his game, because he's a lot of fun to watch. So
also with him too, when you're 6'6", if he possessed elite NHL speed at 6'6", I think that would actually be too scary. It would be scarier than me eating your brain.
Oh, that would be very scary. And I'm not, no brains, Sean. No, you stay back there. Next on the list, a goaltender that, in my ECHL years, I heard a lot of time, Jonas Johansson, re-signing there in, it was October 7th. He got a 1-year, 2-way contract, and Buffalo re-signed him. So, Sean, what say you?
22 games played last season with a solid .921 save percentage and .43 goals saved above average per 60. A frequent but conservative puck player, JJ's a really big goalie. He reads the play reasonably well, but lacks what I would identify as an NHL skill set. As everything he does is fine, but nothing really stands out. He doesn't have that jump off the page skill as a goaltender. But I don't think that he tracks low to high pucks as well, and he struggles to adjust his depth off of that. Perhaps that can change, and he takes a big step forward after what was a good step for him in a solid, albeit shorter, 1920 campaign, playing only 22 games. I'm not sold on him as a solid, number one AHL dependable starter, but I definitely think he has the tools to get there, and he definitely possesses the work ethic to make it happen. If you start in the ECHL and have clawed your way up to here, it's not because you were lazy.
Yeah, definitely not. I think re-signing him, just from an organizational standpoint in net, I think was a good move. And like you said, he's got that work ethic. I noticed it when I was covering the ECHL and everything, but it's just a solid, when you have a goaltender that puts in the work. I saw it a lot with Thomas Scholl, with the Idaho Steelheads organization, earning that Texas Stars contract. I mean, starting at Bowling Green University, the goaltending machine of Bowling Green University, but anyway, it's like to see a guy like Scholl do that. It just reminds me a lot of Jonas Johansson and what he's doing there as well. So, but last but not least, Deanna, thank you for sitting so patiently by while we're talking about these other North Division teams. But here's somebody that Deanna might be a little more familiar with, in Brandon Davidson, because he spent time with the Montreal Canadiens organization for a few games in 16-17 and 17-18, but he got signed by Buffalo. Defenseman, October 10th, 1-year, 2-way NHL contract. He spent most of his time in the NHL the past number of seasons, probably the past 5 or 6 seasons, little bit of a stint in Rockford, 6 games in 18-19. A little bit of a stint. Well, not a little bit. He played 34 games with Stockton in 1920. But with Brandon Davidson, he did post a career high 20 points in 34 games last year with the Heat. Almost all, which was due to a hot start, as he finished with 3 points in his last 17 games, and the season kind of petered off there. 2.75 point shares earned, good for the 88th percentile, and a first pair grade on a per game basis. Nice pickup by the Buffalo organization for the Rochester Americans. Defensive minded D-man who can typically make good first passes to sticks and simple and safe plays when he has the puck. That's always nice for a defensive man to have. His skating's a little below average, but he managed to be responsible enough in his own end to be useful at the AHL level. Deanna, did he ever peg any interest in you when you saw him in Montreal, or did really, just kind of
it's one of those things you just like that I couldn't even recall.
Gotcha.
He is not someone that stands out either. He is a very quiet. Yeah, he's very defense first, second, and third. That's why when I saw looking at his numbers in his game where it's like he put up 20 points in 34 games, how did that happen? And it was definitely atypical of his experience. Like I said, the last 17 games he played, he put in 3 points, which is much more his offensive output. But I think he's someone who you don't notice on the ice as much because he does things right in a quiet way. And I think that still has a lot of value at the AHL level. As an NHLer, his lack of skills and where the game is going in transition and skating, I think keeps him from being very effective at that level. But at the AHL level, he's definitely still a very effective stay-at-home defenseman.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. I mean, maybe not as effective and kind of a ho-hum D-man at the NHL level, but definitely can be effective at the AHL level when he wants to be and when he, hits a bit of a hot streak. So 3 teams down. Last one in the North Division. Who could it be? The Laval Rocket. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about them a little bit. So Laval, Noah Juleson. Sean, go ahead and comment on him. And of course, we'll open the floor to Deanna as well.
I really want to know if Noah Juleson is ever going to be healthy, because he's a good physical defenseman. He's agile. He's not a fast skater, but he does have good burst and gets across the dot line really quick when he needs to. Responsible in his own end, but his offense from juniors has not translated to the pro game well, nor am I really thinking that it will. I hope I'm wrong on that account. And I also want to see what he looks like when he finally has his health to him, which I don't know when or if that's going to happen, but I still think he could pencil in as their second pairing defenseman when reasonably healthy. D?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was cleared to play toward the end of the season because, concussions and those things are as unpredictable as possible. And then he was dealing with the migraines all season and everything. So we did get to see him play a little bit. And he still is in good form. He's still Noah Juleson. He still definitely has, the potential to be. I could, you could put him on the Montreal defense in the preseason, see how he performs, if he can hold his own, really to see it. But with the migraines, with the concussions, I get really concerned about that because you get more and more susceptible to him. And if he had migraines for that long, I mean, he played how many games? Like the smallest amount of games with Laval. The health is the big issue there.
Yep, and especially too, it's not like he has like knee injuries or shoulder injuries. Like if you have migraines like that, I mean, I've only had 2 migraines in my life, but I remember both of them very vividly because they put me on my ass. Like this is not something that's going to be.
I have chronic migraines. I do, and they're not easy. They're painful. They're horrible. They are debilitating, and I worry because he's a a very physical defenseman, that's going to have adverse effects on him.
Absolutely. Let's move on to talk about another re-signing that the Laval Rocket did in Xavier Ouellette. 24 points in 39 games played last year, 3.15 point shares, landing him in the 88th percentile, which is good for a first pairing defenseman grade on a per game basis, according to the model. A good but not great special teams player, definitely has a shoot first, ask questions later mentality at even strength. Whereas on the power play, he's more open to distributing the puck. He generates offense as a defenseman, but very much in the old school mold of make good passes and shooting from the point, and not by like joining the rush or creating zone entries by himself. His transition defense is very conservative. He gives guys more buffer than I think I would like him to, and will never get caught trying to make a play at the red line, breaking up a rush. Going forward, I expect his goals total to come down, as I don't think his near double career average shooting percentage last season is sustainable, but I still think he's likely to hold on to a 35-ish point pace for the season. My thought is that Ouellette isn't getting better. He isn't good as an NHL defenseman, and while he still has a lot of value as an AHLer, Joel Bouchard plays the crap out of him over guys like Jolson, Brooks, and Fleury on special teams, which may be good for Laval in the standings, but is it good for the Habs?
Maybe not. I mean, you have to remember that Ouellette is the captain of the Laval Rocket. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, on the one hand, you've got your captain out there, you've got your captain contributing, setting the example, leading by example. But yeah, on the other hand, he does play a lot of special teams. When Cale Fleury has a solid shot that I would like to see more of on a power play, because he can drive offense as a defenseman, which we saw a lot more when he came back down the second time last season from Montreal. So yeah, I agree with that. And I also agree that because he's getting older, he's ancient for professional hockey in North America, because we don't have Jaromir Jagr playing over here anymore. No. I mean, so it's Joe Thornton. How many Joe Thornton memes have there been on Twitter because he just signed another contract? So yeah, he's aging, and that's probably taking a toll on. And his career has been long. I don't know if you look at his hockey TV page.
Yeah, it's
a wall. But yeah, so I agree with that. I agree that he's not. I didn't mind him in the return to play because he was healthy, he was rested, he fit well into the system, but I don't see that over a full season that he can stay in the NHL.
No, I would agree that he's not going to stay in the NHL. I think the biggest thing that holds him back there is his ability to process the game at the NHL speed is just not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing to do necessarily with his ability to skate or shoot or pass. It's more of just he cannot read the play fast enough at the NHL level to make the plays that are necessary of him, even as a sixth defenseman.
He didn't have to. When was he drafted? 2000 something. JK.
Yeah, he was in the Red Wings organization. He was a Ken Holland.
2011? Yeah. I mean, how much has the game changed since 2011? How much faster has it gotten? And he didn't have to when he was, coming up in the queue.
Yep.
So yeah, and that's kind of, a generational thing. And I think Bouchard kind of weighs pros and cons because he can cycle the puck.
Oh, yeah.
Very good at cycling the puck. His passing is fantastic. He just doesn't take smart shots. And it's, you've kind of got okay, he can move the puck and he's the leader of this team. I think in the most recent article that I wrote about all of these player signings and loans and qualifying offers, I called him the Rocket Patriot. Yes. I called him the Rocket Patriarch because, he's like the oldest person on that team and he's the leader of the team. So you kind of want your youngsters to see him putting in all that effort and, that his compete level is through the roof. He doesn't quit. So you want to give them that example to watch. And then maybe he gets called up when Victor Mete has another unspecified lower body injury. That him and Alsner get to go hang out with the revolving door of left defense from last season for the Canadiens. And then the kids get to kind of say, all right, well, what did X do? And, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of pros and cons because, let's circle it back again. We're doing figure eights today. Well, what Bouchard said was he wants quality veterans, not a lot of veterans. And I think that Ouellet is a valuable person to have in your locker room.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
I think a good nickname for him, Professor X.
Professor X. He calls himself X-Man on Instagram. So
okay,
yeah, X-Man.
There you go. He's playing right into that then. So before we go to our one and only question from social media, fan question from social media, Deanna, are there any other? You want to talk about a wall? You look at the AHL transactions page and all the signings.
I have my notes in front of me. Look at that. That's my.
Seriously, Deanna's article is over. It's closing in on 200 or 2,500, 2,800 words. She had a lot of ground to cover. Just with
signings and extensions and loans and qualifying offers. Yeah, they've been Laval. They're restocking. And you know what that tells me? That tells me that they're expecting some of these kids to make that roster again. And they need to have that depth so that maybe they can put them in the ECHL if they have to for a little while, because they've got a couple of players who bounce around between the AHL and the ECHL. I'm looking at Toby Bisson, who apparently has signed every single one of his contracts with Pascal Akin. And I tweeted about that the other day because I was baffled. They signed their first contract together. Then they signed this contract together.
Right.
So
September 15th, same day and everything.
September 15th. So, and they've bounced around between the AHL and the ECHL. So what that tells me is that they're looking at making sure that they have depth to make so that if one of the kids makes it up there, then they've got somebody that they can put there until they can acquire somebody or what have you. They're also looking at a lot of, we've got some Europeans coming over next year. Ullinen, Jesse Ullinen. He's a Finnish forward. He is currently on loan to the Lahti Pelicans in the Finnish Liga. That's where he played for the past 2 seasons. So he signed his entry-level contract on March 26th. And that's after the season was paused. So we didn't get to see him play. So you've got to assume that maybe, he's going to be adjusting to the North American ice. He might get injured because it's a different game.
Sure. It's
a more physical game on North American ice. And because he didn't get that kind of transition, you might be looking at injuries or call-ups, and then they've got the depth for that they didn't have last season when 176% of the Canadiens roster was out with injuries, and then all of their roster was out with injuries. And so they were basically like, you get a PTO and you get a PTO, and the McGill Men's University Ice Hockey Team, please come try out for our hockey team because we need bodies. They signed so many PTOs at the end of the season because they just needed bodies there because Montreal had them all.
And I think there's a good chance too that guys, Kotkaniemi, I think we all know he's if he plays 20 games with the Rocket, that will be probably 19 more than I expect. But I think
20 more than I expect. I mean, because he proved in the return to play that the reason he went to Laval was valid, it was necessary, and that I think that's what he needed. That's all he needed, because he came back to the return to play and he was like lighting it up. So he got that confidence back that he lacked coming in on an injury and then getting injured again. So yeah, I don't see Kotkaniemi in the AHL unless something catastrophic happens and his murdered swing gets remurdered.
I would also say too, I don't expect. I've seen some roster projections for the Canadiens that have guys like Poling and Evans up there too, which I don't know. I think putting Evans up there might be a little aggressive, but I could see cases where the bottom of the roster is filled out by the top of Laval.
Evans could earn it out of camp. If he puts in a lot of work in the offseason, Evans could more than earn it out of camp. Poehling? No, I don't see Poehling in the NHL right now. His game, from what I've seen, like with him, what we saw with him with the Canadiens, what we saw with him with the Rocket, he's kind of got a lot of massive gaps that need to be filled before he can go up to the big club, for longer than one game against the Maple Leafs where he scores a hat trick, and be useful and make an impact for the team. And then, I mean, in the return to play, he didn't play because he didn't come to camp prepared to play, which kind of makes me kind of question, the buy-in level. And I mean, Claude Julien didn't play him. So is Claude Julien going to be like, I mean, fool me once, shame on me? Or is he going to take that at face value and say, we had these issues? There was like a lot of talk about him not being very happy with being sent down to Laval at the beginning of the season after he was concussed in the preseason. And so I think does that color kind of how they look at him? This is a big thing. I mean, they're saying, hey, you can come play in the playoffs. That was too many plays. I mean, the play-in rounds. And Poehling didn't come in game shape. Whereas somebody like Jesper Kotkaniemi, who had to have splenic surgery. I mean, spleens are like kind of important.
A little bit.
I don't know. I'm not Grey's Anatomy. So, like the book, not the show. But he put in the work in the off season. His dad, I mean, was quoted in an article. I'm pretty sure it was on The Athletic. It might have been by Arpin Basu. I can't recall what exactly the article was, but I'm like 86% sure it was Arpin Basu of The Athletic who talked to Kotkaniemi's dad, Mikhail. And he said, no, he was in the backyard, like lifting weights, like as soon as they told him that he could do any kind of physical activity. And then he went and to Helsinki and trained with like ice hockey wizards. And he got, I mean, and you saw how much that effort paid off for him because it looked like a different player than even what we saw a point per game in Laval before he was taken out with the spleen injury. So, absolutely. Yeah, I don't see Poehling. I don't know with Poehling. Poehling, I think should start in the AHL. Take some of those lessons that he learned from the return to play, and then apply it there and prove himself. Poehling's going to have to prove himself.
Absolutely. All right, Cece, we had a listener question.
Yes, we did. So the Twitter handle at FFSMate
Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is.
Yes, we'll just leave that there and get to the question. What do you think the goaltending position in Laval will look like? Who's the one player you think will have a great season next year in Laval? So you got a bit of a two-part question, first regarding goaltending and the other one just in players overall. Now, Sean, I'm going to kind of defer to you first and then have Deanna, of course, weigh in on it. And we'll just do that with both sides of the question. Let's talk about the goaltending situation between Montreal and Laval.
Well, with Jake Allen in town for the Habs, it seems pretty clear that it's going to be Caden Primo and Michael McNiven. I don't think that highly of Caden Primo as I know a lot of other people do.
Sure.
He's a smart goalie that does a lot well, but again, I don't think he does anything exceptionally. Some of the goals he let in last season worry me as being more than fluky shots from distance and being more attributable to fundamental errors. I still think he's a more than capable AHL starter and certainly has the potential to be an NHL goalie. This season coming up, he could take big steps forward, but I would anticipate a better but not AHL award bait season. McNiven is a middling backup with flashes of being a middling AHL starter. I don't have a whole lot more on McNiven. Deanna?
He played for 3 separate ECHL teams last season. He's been horribly mismanaged. Okay, I said, that Primo also, I mean, he's the heir apparent right now with the goalies that you have in the system. Caden Primo is the heir apparent. But I don't know. I think if Demchenko comes over, because they did sign Demchenko, like when the season was paused and stuff, when everything was kind of up in the air and they can sign KHL free agents. I think McNiven and Demchenko kind of battle it out a little bit. I think they use camp and whatever kind of preseason or exhibition that they have to really kind of solidify who's going to be backing Primo up. You've got Demchenko did play for Tractor, which is a horrible team. They finished like almost last in the KHL. Yeah. So, but his numbers are pretty good, despite being on kind of a horrible team, which tells me, they didn't play much defense in front of him. And from what I've seen of some of the goals that have gone in and against, I mean, he is positionally sound and he's got really good vision, puck tracking. So yeah, I think it takes camp to figure out who backs up Primo.
All right. Gotcha. And the second part of that question. So who's the one player you think will have a great season next year in Laval? Sean, you first, my friend.
I think Jake Evans is poised for a breakout year after he put himself on the map last season. I don't think Montreal thought much of him. 7th round pick, whatever, freshman year at Notre Dame. But then he blew up the rest of his college career and is a do-it-all for the Rocket last season. God forbid if Poling ever brings his A-plus game every night for sure. But he struggles to find that level of consistency as a pro, I think. But I think they spend more time with the Habs than the Rocket, more so Evans. But I'm going to go a little bit off the board and say Alexander Romanov. If he comes from the KHL to the Rocket, that's my pick. I don't know how long he'll stay in the AHL, but I can say not too many 5'11", 185 guys, 185-pound guys make impact hits like he does. He's a great skater, good sense of when to join the rush, beats that first forechecker consistently, whether with a pass or with his feet. Like, that kid can ball.
And his game's already so well suited to the North American game. And with the KHL standardizing ice, he doesn't have that much of an adjustment to make, which is also super promising. I also went with a what if for mine. I went with Jesse Ylönen. If we get to see him play, he's going to have a couple of like bumps in the road, and he's going to have to adjust because Liga has not standardized the ice. Liga, all the different arenas have different size ice. So he's going to be I Googled that this morning just to double check that I was right. So fact check me.
Hey, well done.
So he's going to have to adjust. But hold on, I wrote down what I like about him. Let's see. His skating, his passing, his on ice vision, they're all there. They can obviously get better as he gets older and matures and sees more situations and more time in North America. But he can stick handle. He's a puck protector. His puck protection's pretty solid. And the Rocket could use that. That's an asset to the Rocket. And to get him kind of where he's right there. He's ready. He spent the last 2 seasons in Liga. He scored at least 20 points in those seasons. You know, he's like right on the doorstep, but patience is going to be key with him. So if we get to see Ullinen, then we give him a few games, and then I think he'll adjust well. I really do. So I think he'd have a really good season under Bouchard, especially.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for the questions. The 2-part question rather from FFS Mate.
Thank you, Miso.
There you go. Sounds like Deanna knows that person.
It's my friend La Miss. She's from Quebec. She's from Montreal. So
explains why you know her, because she's part of Canadiens Twitter. There you go. Right on. Well, last but not least, Sean is, giving the excellent Smithers little.
Oh, I don't like that.
It's going to be time for the quiz. Mr. Sean, after you, sir.
So, Puck Soup, a good podcast with Wyshynski and Down Goes Brown, and they do quizzes on the regular. And one of the ones they came up with is called is a version of Name That Tune called Name Pat Falloon. And I'm going to steal that quiz formula and make it into an AHL quiz called Name That Watherspoon. So basically, here's how the game is going to work. You guys are going to have 6 categories to pick from. And once you pick a category, you're going to get the player that obviously fits in that category. You're going to get their current age, their total NHL and AHL games played, and their last NHL and AHL team played for. And then you're going to possibly get up to 10 additional clues to help you guess the player. First, you're going to get their amateur team, their height and weight and position played, the team they have the most games played for, their active years, their career NHL and AHL, either goals, assists, points, and penalty minutes, or wins, save percentage, and goals against average if it's a goalie. Their nation of birth, if they were drafted, their draft team and year. If they were not drafted, the last jersey number they wore in the AHL or NHL, the number of goals, assists, points, or wins, or save percentage or goals against average in their most recent season, every team they've ever played for, or their initials. And basically, of those 10 categories of clues, you are going to bid downward for them. So, like, if you think you can name the player in the category with 8 clues, your opponent can then say, I can do it in 6. And then you have the choice of either saying, okay, you get 6 clues, name that Watherspoon, and they have to try and name the player. Or you can say, I can do it in 5, and then they have the same choice.
Yes. So we'll run through a little test here. I see Deanna shaking her head and everything, but once we get going, once we're in the flow of things, it'll kind of explain itself a little bit. So
yep.
Yes.
All right. So here are your categories that you have to choose from. The first one is called 200-foot snipes. These are goaltenders that have scored a goal at the AHL level. Second is moving on up. Those are players with AHL experience who have won a major NHL award. So not the Lady Byng. And there is Mr. 2000. These are players with over 2,000 career AHL penalty minutes.
Wow.
And the next category is tracksuit connoisseur. These are players who played on at least 6 AHL teams with 100 AHL games played. Next category is I'm basically Lewis and/or Clark. These are scoring and goaltending leaders of Western Conference expansion teams in their inaugural season in 15-16. And last category is more cups than Martin Brodor's rental. These are guys who have won both the Calder and Stanley Cup as a player.
Gotcha. Deanna, what category sounds appealing to you?
None of them.
Okay. Are you deferring to me to select, or?
I don't remember them.
So 200-foot snipes. These are goalies who have been credited with a goal. Moving on up, NHL major award winners with AHL experience. Mr. 2000, players with over 2,000 career penalty minutes. Tracksuit connoisseur, players who played at least 6 AHL teams with at least 100 AHL games played. I'm basically Lewis and/or Clark, scoring or goaltending leaders of Western Conference expansion teams in their inaugural season, and guys who have won both the Stanley Cup and Calder Cup as a player. That category is more cups than Martin Brodor's rental.
Let's do that one.
All right. From that category, you can choose A, B, C, or D.
Let's go with D.
D. All right.
Very fitting.
Let me pull that up. All right. So in your initial grouping of clues here, you get their current age, their total games played, and the last team that they played for.
What are we playing to, Sean?
Best of 3. So first 1 to 3.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So this player is currently 30 years old. His total AHL games played is 48, and he has 757 NHL games played. His last NHL team played for is the Washington Capitals. The last AHL team played for is the Hershey Bears. Deanna, how many of the 10 clues do you think it would take for you to guess this player?
10.
Cece, can you do it in 9 or less?
I think I can do it in 7.
Deanna, do you think you can do it in 6?
No.
Okay, Cece, it's time for you to name that Wotherspoon. So you get 6 clues. All right, first is their amateur team. Their amateur team was the London Knights of the OHL.
Okay.
Their height, weight, and position played. They are a defenseman that is 6'3", 217 pounds. The team they have the most games played for is the Washington Capitals, where they played all of their games.
All of their NHL games?
All of their NHL games have been played for the Washington Capitals. All of their AHL games are for the Hershey Bears.
Okay.
Let's see. Their active years are 2008 until present. So they are still an active player. Goals, assists, points, and penalty minutes. They have 757 games played, 105 goals, 373 assists, 478 points in their NHL career with 258 penalty minutes. In their AHL career, 48 games played, 4 goals, 35 assists, 39 points, 26 penalty minutes. And their nation of birth, they were born in Nantucket, Massachusetts.
Oh, God. I feel very put on the spot here because the names that I had in my head were not, no, they were not the ones that were correct.
Should have gone 10.
Should have gone 10. I know. I got a little arrogant there. Oh, I can do it in 7. No, I can't. Frick.
Well, talk it out. Who were you thinking about? What were the names that were in your head?
Well, oh gosh. I was thinking about Jay Beagle at first, but that's definitely not the case because he didn't play all of his NHL games with the Caps. And then I was thinking Nicholas Backstrom, but he definitely wasn't born in Massachusetts. Jeez. Man, I'm drawing a blank this.
Also a defenseman.
Also a defenseman, right. So that kind of, yes, thank you for that. So that obviously negated those other two as well. Well, frick. No, not Martin Frick.
Yeah, it's pronounced Ferk.
Yes. Sorry. My mistake.
Put some respect on the owner of the AHL's hardest shots name, please.
Sorry, D.
Put some respect.
Respect. Ferk. Sorry. I'm drawing a blank here. I really have no idea.
Do you have a guess? I mean, he's played his entire career for the Capitals, so I'm pretty sure that should give away when he won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but
Wait, I don't even know.
what is
I remember. Never mind.
when I'm having a brain fart, I'm just having a brain fart. Like there is literally nothing coming to my head. It's just it's just a brain fog kind of afternoon right now. D's probably going to get the point because I don't even have a guess.
D, do you have an opportunity to steal? Do you have a guess as to who this might be?
Ilya Kovalchuk.
It is not Ilya Kovalchuk.
That's the only capital I can think of right now.
The answer we were looking for is John Carlson.
Oh, Carlson, right? Yeah, him.
Oh, Mr. Norris. Yeah.
That would be correct. All right,
Oh,
Cece, it is your turn to select a category.
So did nobody get a point on that one?
No one got a point on that one.
So this game might take a while.
I have plenty of material here. So
oh boy. Okay. Next category. Let's go. I'm basically Lewis and or Clark, and let's go with the letter C.
all right, let me pull this up. All right. Initial clues that you get. Scrolling. Current age. This player is currently 31 years old. Their total NHL and AHL games played. They have 72 AHL games played and 107 NHL games played. The last NHL team that they played for is the San Jose Sharks. The last AHL team they played for is the San Jose Barracuda. CC, how many clues do you need to name that Wotherspoon?
10.
Deanna, can you do it in 9?
Why not?
Deanna says 9. CC, are you willing to take 8?
I'll take 8.
Oh, brave man. Deanna, 7, or does CC have to name that Wotherspoon?
He's got to, do the thing.
All right, CC, you have 8 clues here.
Lay them on me.
All right, let's pull up the list. So
John Carlson.
Oh.
All right, his amateur
right
team was the Calgary Canucks of the AJHL. Height, weight, and position played. He is listed at 6 foot, 205 pounds, and is a goaltender.
Okay.
Team they have the most games played for is the San Jose Sharks, where they have played their entire NHL career of 107 games. The AHL team that they have the most games played for is the AHL affiliate of the San Jose Sharks, whether that was in Worcester or in San Jose. They played the vast majority of their career there. Their career wins, save percentage, and goals against average. In the NHL, they have 48 career wins, a 908 save percentage, and a 275 goals against average. In the AHL, they have 33 wins, a 923 save percentage, and a 237 goals against average. Their active years are 2012-13 to present. I gave you that already. Their nation of birth. They are Canadian from Airdrie, Alberta. Yeah. If drafted, they were not drafted. The last jersey number that they wore is number 30. Goaltender, very helpful.
Yep, of course. Yeah. I think I know who it is though.
Would you like the rest? Let's see. And in the most recent NHL and AHL season, they had 12 wins, a 907 save percentage, and a 301 goals against average, playing for the San Jose Sharks. CC, can you name that Wotherspoon?
Is it Martin Jones?
Oh, it is not.
Well, wonderful.
Deanna, would you like to try and steal here?
Is it Dell?
It is Aaron Dell. Deanna is on the board, 1-0.
And she was worried about getting swept. And here I am guessing Martin Jones when it should have been Aaron Dell.
Yeah.
Learn your goalies.
Yeah. I mean, cater into the goaltender here. I mean, yeah. Yep. She's got that. And
yep. All right. The board is yours, Deanna. Deanna, do you want...
I want the goalie one, the 200.
200-foot snipes.
Yeah, that one.
A, B, C, or D?
A.
All right. First clues that you get here. Current age is 35 years old. Their total NHL games played is 179. Their total AHL games played is 28. The last NHL team that they played for is the Edmonton Oilers. The last AHL team they played for is the Bakersfield Condors. How many clues will it take for you to name that Wotherspoon?
9.
9. All right. CC.
I will go 8.
Deanna, can you do better than 8? Can you do 7?
What's the clue that comes on 7?
If they were drafted, the draft team and year. If not, it's the last jersey number they wore.
Probably not then.
All right. CC, you said 8?
I did.
All right, CC. You are going to try and name that Wotherspoon. All right. Let me shift this over so I can make this easier on me. All right. Their amateur team was, I'm not going to say this right, Fardenstads Karlstad in the Swedish Elite League. Their height and weight and position, they're obviously a goaltender. 6'3", 181 pounds. Team they have the most games played for is in the NHL, the Toronto Maple Leafs. In the AHL is the in the AHL is the Bakersfield Condors.
Okay.
Their active years are 2009, 2010 to present. However, they were last active in the AHL in 16-17. Their nation of birth is Swedish. Let's see. I do not believe they were drafted, which means last jersey number is 50. And the 8th most recent NHL season production, their last NHL season, they played 7 games for the Edmonton Oilers, where they had 1 win, an 878 save percentage, and a 3.1 goals against average. Their last AHL season was in 16-17, same year as that NHL season. They had 20 games played, 8 wins, a 917 save percentage, and a 242 goals against average. That is all I can do to help you, CC. This is a goaltender who has scored a goal at the AHL level. Can you name that Wotherspoon?
Oh my goodness. The Maple Leafs thing threw me off. I tell you that. And he's Swedish. Yeah, I am not doing well so far. Not having a good Not having a good go at this. Not too confident right now. Edmonton, Bakersfield, la 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 la. I don't know.
Would you like to venture a guess?
Well, I was gonna say Mike Smith, but I sure as hell know that's not the answer. I defer.
All right. The answer is not Mike Smith. Deanna, would you like to take a shot at stealing here?
No, I'm good.
All right, then. The answer we were looking for is Jonas Gustafsson. Scored a goal March 24th, 2017 versus San Diego.
I forgot about good old Jonas Gustafsson. Yeah, 50.
All right.
That should have gave it away.
CC, the board is yours.
All right. Well, let's go tracksuit connoisseur.
All right. A, B, C, D, or E?
Saucy.
E.
Jazzy.
Was that E?
E.
All right.
An extra pizzazz.
Jazz hands.
All right. Initial clues that I am required to give you here. Current age is 27 years old. Total NHL and AHL games played. Oh, there are a lot of them. He's played 213 NHL games. And all right, I need to actually put this into a table because I cannot do all that math in myself. That is a lot. Give me a second.
Might have to go to Elite Prospects. They keep a nice running total of AHL and NHL games.
That's probably what I should have done in the first place, but hold on. We're almost there.
Okay.
All right. Total AHL games played is 190.
Okay.
All
But you did
right.
the 200. Okay.
And the last AHL team he played for was also the Bakersfield Condors. The last NHL team he played for was the Edmonton Oilers.
Gee.
And this is a player, again, from the category tracksuit connoisseur, which means he's played for at least 6 AHL teams with at least 100 AHL games.
Yowzers. All right.
How many clues will you be needing, CC?
10.
Deanna.
9. I
CC.
just go for it.
Name that Waterspoon. Deanna McFeron.
That's me.
9 clues. Okay,
Yeah.
that affords you quite a lot here.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep. All right, so let's get the unhelpful ones out of the way first. His amateur team was the St. John's Sea Dogs in the QMJHL. Height, weight, and position played. He is 6'2", 188 pounds, and a left wing. Teams that he has the most games played for is the Grand Rapids Griffins in the AHL, and in the NHL, the Detroit Red Wings. Active years is 2012 to present. Career NHL and AHL totals. He has 213 NHL games played, 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 total points, 64 penalty minutes. In the AHL, he has 213. Oh, sorry. Wrong total. Wrong league. In the AHL, he has 190 AHL games played, 62 goals, 68 assists, 130 points, 116 penalty minutes. His nation of birth is Slovakian. He was drafted in the second round, number 35 overall by the Detroit Red Wings. And the totals from his most recent season. He played 8 games for the Bakersfield Condors in 2019-20. 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 total points. His most recent NHL season, also 19-20 with the Edmonton Oilers. 12 games played, 2 assists, no goals, 2 total points. That one is not very helpful. And then every team that they've played for, in the AHL, he's played for Bakersfield, Charlotte, Springfield, Rockford, and Grand Rapids. In the NHL, that's Edmonton, Chicago, Detroit. Deanna, do you have a guess for who this is? I think Cece might know who it is.
Nope.
Athanasiou.
On the right track, but no, it is not Andreas Athanasiou. Cece, your chance to steal.
Gosh, Detroit, Chicago, and Edmonton.
Played briefly for Bakersfield last year, and in the preceding years played for Charlotte in 18-19, Springfield in 18-19, Rockford, Grand Rapids before that.
Oh gosh. Gosh, I can see the name.
You got to say it though.
I know. Yeah, I can't.
Just say Athanasiou.
Well, that's what you guessed. No, I don't know.
All right. The answer the judges here were looking for was Thomas Yurko.
Oh, yes.
I've never heard of that person in my life.
I've heard of him, but that wasn't the name I was thinking of.
All right. Deanna, the board is yours. Would you like the categories again?
No, do the Lewis and Clark one.
Okay.
I remember that one.
All right. A, B, C, or D?
B.
All right. All right. Nope, not the right person. You were the right person. All right. Clues I am required to give you here are their current age. They are 36 years old. Their total NHL and AHL games played. They have 0 NHL games played, unfortunately. Their AHL game total is coming shortly. AHL total is 716 AHL games played. The last AHL team they played for was the Grand Rapids Griffins. And this was a player who was a statistical leader on a Western Conference expansion team in 15-16. How many clues, Deanna, would you like?
It's a 10 from me.
All right, Cece.
Go ahead and name that Wotherspoon. Deanna.
She gets all 10.
She gets all 10. Yeah.
I'm still not going to get it.
We're going to try.
All right. His amateur team was the Sioux Falls Stampede of the USHL. His height, weight, and position played. 6'1", 205 pounds. He is listed as a right wing. Teams they have the most games played for in the AHL, that is the Grand Rapids Griffins. Active years are 2008, 2009 to present. Career NHL and AHL totals, well, they don't have any AHL or NHL totals. Their AHL totals are 716 games played, 206 goals, 224 assists for 430 points, 511 penalty minutes. Their nation of birth is America, West Hills, California. They were drafted in the 8th round by the Chicago Blackhawks, 256th overall in the 2004 entry draft. The number of goals, assists, and points in their most recent season was with the Grand Rapids Griffins in 2019-20, 52 games played, 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points with 33 penalty minutes. Every team they have ever played for. All right. In 1920, they played for the Griffins. They played for the Griffins all the way back to 16-17. Then was their Lewis and Clark year with the Bakersfield Condors in 15-16. 14-15, they were with the Barons up until 12-13. 12-13 was Springfield. Then they were in Adirondack. 11-12, they were in Hershey. 10-11, they were in Lake Erie. 08-09, they were in Hartford. And you get their initials too. Their initials are MF.
Michael Frolik.
Not Michael Frolik, unfortunately. Cece, do you have a guess?
I had nothing.
It's not Martin Firk, I'll tell you that much.
It is not Martin Firk, although that would have been a pretty reasonable guess.
Right? Although, yeah, he played with the Reign, so, and he has played some NHL games. Gosh, I'm trying to visualize the Grand Rapids roster, and oh man, I got nothing. Yeah, precisely.
The answer the judges were looking for here was Matthew Ford.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got that.
I will say it because I can see all of the names that are on the list when I give you the A, B, C, and D. You guys are picking the hardest ones. I know that
great.
you have.
I mean, give us like a nudge or something. Be like, do you want A or B, C, D?
All right.
Help us out.
Yeah,
We're bad at this.
clearly. At least you got a point, D.
Yeah, you got on the board.
Hey, and I knew that one. I knew that one the entire time he said it too. I was like, don't get it right, Cece. Don't get it right.
You just
All right, Cece, the board is yours.
okay. 200-foot snipes. And let's go with, well, let's what choices do I have?
You have A, B, or C.
That was, yep, backwards. We're going backwards.
Yeah. A, B, or C?
A, B, or C.
Oh, let's go with C then.
There we go. All right. Clues I'm having to give you here. Current age of this player. He is 27 years old.
Okay.
Total AHL games played is 158. 17 NHL games played. The last AHL team he played for is the Providence Bruins. The last NHL team that he played for is the Vegas Golden Knights. How many clues would you like, CC?
I only need 4.
4.
Yeah.
Okay, then do it. Just go ahead, Cece. Just do it. Just
All right.
You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and guess. I don't need
Wow.
the
Not even going to wait for clues?
No, because he played with the Idaho Steelheads. It's Maxime Lagacé.
That is correct.
So, yeah. The Providence and the Vegas gave it away. Again, I mentioned him earlier in the podcast, so it's like
I did say
back.
C.
C.
All right. We're going to edit the format here for time and say that the next point wins.
Okay, yeah, we're 1-1, so we might as well. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
It's in 2 hours, so
Road hockey.
Deanna, floor is yours.
The Martin Berder one.
More cups than Martin Brodor's rental. All right. A, B, or C? Sorry, let me rephrase. A, B, or C?
All right, let's go A. That was enthusiastic.
All right. Let's go. Got this.
This player is 38 years old. His total NHL games played is 939.
Holy crow.
His total AHL games played is 163. The last NHL team he played for was the Chicago Blackhawks. The last AHL team he played for was the Philadelphia Phantoms. He has won both a Stanley and Calder Cup. Deanna, how many clues would you like?
8.
Name that Wotherspoon.
Nah, I don't know. I'm gonna lose anyway.
All right.
You don't know that.
His amateur team was the Kanata Valley Lasers, a team that has come up on this podcast before.
Where is that even located?
Kanata Valley, duh. I don't know.
What part of the world?
Kanata Valley is in Ontario. It's in Kanata, Ontario. I'm assuming I'm saying that wrong.
Probably.
Anyway, his height, weight, and position played. He is 6'1", 200 pounds, and is a left wing. Team they have the most games played for, that's the Chicago Blackhawks by a lot. And he only played for one AHL team. That's the Philadelphia Phantoms. His active years are 2002, 2003 to 2017-18. He is no longer an active player. Career NHL and AHL totals, 939 games played, 287 goals, 333 assists, 620 total points in the NHL, 536 penalty minutes. In the AHL, he has 52 total goals, 64 total assists, 116 points, and 130 penalty minutes in the 163 AHL games that he played. His nation of birth, he is Canadian, born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Philadelphia Flyers, 95th overall in the 2001 entry draft. His most recent NHL season was with the Chicago Blackhawks in 17-18. He played 70 games with 10 goals, 11 assists, 21 points, 14 penalty minutes. Most recent AHL season was 2004-2005 with the Philadelphia Phantoms, 75 games played, 23 goals, 29 assists, 52 total points, 80 penalty minutes. And that is all you get. You said 8.
I did, and I regret it now.
Yes.
I
Won both
will.
a Stanley and a Calder Cup.
I will allow a bump up to 9.
9's not going to help me.
No.
Well, for the sake of clarity here, 9 would give you every team they've ever played for. So they played for the Chicago Blackhawks from 2005-2006 through 2014-15. 15-16 and 16-17, they played for the Dallas Stars before going back to the Chicago Blackhawks. They were drafted and played 3 seasons by the Philadelphia Flyers, 02-03, 03-04, and 05-06. They split time with the AHL team, the Philadelphia Phantoms, during that time. Graduated University of Vermont. I think that is all that number 9 affords you.
I was hoping you'd say that, Sean.
Do you know who it is, CC?
I think I do.
Brandon Saad.
It is a good guess, but no, it is not Brandon Saad. CC, your chance to steal for the win.
It is one of the most handsome commentators currently behind a desk on TV. I think it's going to be Mr. Patrick Sharp.
It is, in fact, Patrick Sharp. Congratulations, CC. You have named that Wotherspoon.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Deanna, you didn't get swept. You got a point. And, you Aaron Delled me. So there's that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, a new format to introduce to our listeners here. If you win the week's quiz, you get a small amount of time to say whatever you would like as a FaceTime award, and you also get to lead the outro of the show. So Cece, take 30 seconds here. What would you like to speak about?
Well, yeah, in 30 seconds, it's kind of hard to parse this down, but with the growing number of, with the growing number of sports leagues having an effect, or having been affected rather, by COVID-19 coronavirus, it's just a matter of just people continuing to be safe and alert and to abide by their local guidelines, because, it's different for everyone in every different place. And so I think, in whatever locale you're in, just to keep, if you're not concerned about getting it yourself, I think at least wearing a mask and being considerate of other people is important. So, it may be kind of a generic thing, but I think it's kind of a common sense reminder to folks, if they've made it through past the 2-hour mark here in the show, that, wearing a mask, it's important. And I think it puts other people at ease and peace of mind. So, unless you're on a Zoom call, I think going out in public, wear a mask.
Thank you very much, Cece.
You bet.
All right. Take us home.
All righty. So that is it for the show. And I get to take us home as well. So my name's Cece Hawkley, like I said, and you can find me on Twitter at Sinbin Eagles. My other podcast, the Tape to Tape podcast, Colorado Eagles Tape to Tape podcast, rather, is a Eagles focused show, as you gathered. My writing can be found on the sinbin.net. And my next article coming out, gosh, if it'll get out there, I mentioned it on the Eagles podcast too. Christian Horn re-signed with the Utah Grizzlies after just one game spent with Utah last season in the ECHL. So I'm going to try and get that banged out sometime this next week. And yeah, that's what I've got going on. Sean, where can we find your work?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien 81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. You can find my stats work on Tableau at bit.ly/SO81-Tableau, TABLEAU. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. If you're still listening after the 2-hour mark, I absolutely love you. Also, please rate and review the podcast wherever you are listening to it from. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the In the Corners podcast on Twitter at In the Corners Pod as well. You can see so you can keep up with the show and see what's going on. Deanna, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at SinbinRocket. And you can find all my articles at thesinbin.net.
Perfect. Deanna, thank you so much for coming on the show, by the way.
Yeah, of course. Tons of fun, except for I don't know hockey players. I'm bad at hockey, like Drew Doughty at the All-Star game when he couldn't make the
Yikes. Shots fired. But
No. He was mic'd up and he said, "Wow, I'm bad at hockey."
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're just calling it like it was. So, all right. Well, again, if you like us even more, please consider leaving a tip in our digital tip jar at patreon.com/thesinbinhockey. We're all doing this as a labor of love, so your support means a lot to us, and it allows us to continue to provide coverage, keep the doors open at thesinbin.net, keep this podcast going, as well as expand our coverage to more markets. So be sure to check out the Sinbin's other podcasts, the Hockey Talk podcast, 3 Periods podcast that covers the ECHL, Syracuse Speaks with Alexandra Ackerman, that covers the Syracuse Crunch, and of course the Tape to Tape podcast. So until next time, I'm Cece. For Sean and Deanna, thanks for showing up, and thanks for listening in. Thanks for making it past the 2-hour mark once again. Don't eat our brains, Sean. Keep your stick on the ice. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the In the Corners podcast. Stay caught up with the latest minor league hockey news by downloading the Sinbin app for Android and Apple devices.
All sports fans have experienced this, right? Something amazing happens on the ice and you think, man, I wish I'd have been filming. Now with the Sporfy app, you can replace that thought with a click. With just one click of a button, Sportfy captures the past 15 seconds of action so you can instantly replay and share your favorite moments all without having to film. And it's easy too. All you have to do is download the app on iOS or Android devices and experience an all-new way of filming sports highlights.